Hey everyone, my name is Andrés Pimentel. I make documentaries, video essays, and lifestyle videos about living in Cusco Peru, which is behind me. Today I have an interview about climate, the environment, our role. We talk about neuroplasticity and more. It's with Pooran Desai, a man who helped found BioRegional and has really done a lot to help the environment. The situation is pretty bad with the environment. With some of these tips, hopefully you'll be inspired like me to make a difference. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Pooran Desai. Thanks so much for your time, Pooran. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
So my name's Pooran Desai. I've been working in sustainability for 30 years. I've got a background in medical sciences and neuroscience, but moved into the environmental side in the early 1990s, co-founded an environmental organisation called BioRegional based in London, and set up a number of different enterprises, social enterprises, I guess you call them, in sustainable forestry, farming, recycling. We were growing as an organisation, needed new offices, so I put together a project to build the UK's first zero carbon village of 100 homes. So that's called BedZ, or Beddington Zero Fossil Energy Development, and created a framework called One Planet Living, which is how do we lead happy, healthy lives within the resources available on our one planet, and led an international One Planet Living initiative for over 15 years, applying it in over 30 countries with cities, real estate developers, companies, including, of course, Somo village in Sonoma County, where we also worked with the school, Credo School, to introduce the One Planet Living principles there as part of the curriculum. And now I've been setting up a technology company to make it easy for cities and companies and citizens to collaborate on sustainability plans. So that's my background.
How would you approach the issue of ecoanxiety, a coin termed in 2017, but something that people have been feeling for decades?
Interesting point. It's a bit too late for eco-anxiety, actually. I was worried about environmental issues, 30 years ago, and unfortunately our worst fears are unfolding now, I think. Yeah, the new IPCC report, but that's very conservative, so it's worse. The situation is a lot worse than the IPCC report, the UN report on climate change. I think the real issue at the moment, before I come and answer the questions on eco-anxiety, I will just explain the situation. And sorry, this is completely unfiltered, if you like. But it'll come unfiltered in the sense that I think we just have to face head on into the challenges. So the real issue now is what's known as tipping cascades, where a collapse of one particular ecological system leads to collapse of others around the world. So in particular, we're seeing collapse of the Arctic, with the ice melting very rapidly now. So it's likely the Arctic Sea will be ice-free before too long, and that means that we reflect less of the warmth coming from the sun. It gets absorbed by the much darker sea. So the Arctic warms up. That means the Greenland ice sheet melts faster, stops things like the Gulf Stream, which then means things like the Amazon gets less rainfall and dries up and burns uncontrollably, which then also melts the Antarctic. And things like the monsoons in Asia and Africa will also be disrupted. So it could be a lot worse, and that could happen in a very few numbers of years, those changes. So we're not talking even about 20, 30 years time, we're talking possibly within 5 years. So it is quite late to be anxious about these things, because they are going to unfold, and we are heading into a time of incredible disruption. We have to face this full on now. I think that we've been a little too relaxed as a society in terms of addressing these issues. So coming on to your question, Andres, about how you cope with eco-anxiety. Well, I think the sort of advice I would give to youngsters is that our understanding, the scientific understanding of the universe is actually, that we've built our culture on, is too limited and too narrow. And in fact, it's much richer than the sort of ideas we have in modern Western society, at least. So if you look at the very cutting edge of science, we realize that life actually on this planet is not an accident. It's actually probably inevitable. I'm happy to share some links so that any of your listeners can follow up on that. The other thing is that consciousness is more fundamental than physical reality. So consciousness doesn't come out of our brains. Actually, our brains come out of consciousness. So this has given me a completely different worldview, having been a scientist and neuroscientist, of the world and of the universe, and that the universe is actually intelligent. So what I see, for me, what really cured my eco-anxiety, if you like, is really a different understanding of the universe. The universe is something intelligent. You know, what we're seeing unfolding is actually has an underlying intelligence to it. So that got me away from being worried about the eco-anxiety. I think the universe is just unfolding in an intelligent way. I think that sort of world perspective can really help us with eco-anxiety. And the other aspect is, you know, I just can't recommend too much. Get into meditation, mindfulness, you know, and really calm yourself down, see reality as it is, and respond to reality in a very positive way.
I grew up going to Apashu, that's how you say Apache, and Lakota ceremonies, and they have a worldview that's very inclusive of nature. They see nature as part of their family. Mother Earth and Father Sun are like our parents.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in Aboriginal and First Nations cultures, and they were the last, you know, they're the cultures which have remained in touch really with nature. You know, as soon as we got into farming cultures and then city-based urban cultures, we started to lose that contact with nature and seeing ourselves actually as part of nature. So not even talking about us working with nature, but actually going even deeper than that to seeing ourselves as part of nature. And I think that's a very, very rich culture which we have to revive. And I think the future gives us a great opportunity to revive that culture, combining it with things like technology.
Growing up, I always heard the phrase, do what you love, do your passion, and you'll change the world for the better. Given the current state of the environment, is it enough for people to go around just doing what they love, regardless of the environment?
It's an interesting question. I would always say to anyone, do what you love, but always put it in the context of how we can regenerate the planet. So the planet is probably about half as alive it was. If you weigh up all the living matter on the planet, it's probably half the mass of living matter compared to 300 years ago, so compared to the start of the Industrial Revolution. It's not enough for us to be sustainable. Actually, we do have to regenerate the planet. And so I'd say whatever you do what you love, but do it in a way which helps us regenerate planet Earth. And I think we've gone through a period where we've talked too much about individual freedoms. You know, we can't have 8 billion people on the planet expressing themselves in any way they want. We can't do that any more than you can have people on a lifeboat expressing themselves. So that's quite a childish attitude to have, I would say now, faced with what we have. So think about how you can express yourself, but in a way which contributes something. So become much less selfish. You know, self-expression can be a very selfish, childish, I go even as far as a childish way of looking at how to lead your life. So combine that with a sense of responsibility, and in particular, you know, a responsibility that we have to the planet and seeing ourselves as part of a bigger living system. I would say I would put that in the context of you can have a lot of fun regenerating planet Earth, you know, and in fact more fun than having a selfish attitude towards enjoying yourself.
I'm sure you've heard of the term neuroplasticity. Do you think it's possible to rewire the human brain to take care of the environment and not destroy it?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, our brains are very plastic. Our cultures are very plastic as well. You know, so I don't think you can separate out the structure of our brains from the cultures in which we live. So changing our culture, changing our way of perceiving the world, and things like meditation, and possibly even, I suspect, we'll start seeing the use of psychedelics to help us change our perception and to get us out of the sort of ruts and habits and fixed pathways that have now been wired into our brains by the consumer society that we live in, by the materialistic society that we live in. That's all just that's been hardwired into our brains. So it's quite difficult to get out of that. But I think we will see that happening in the coming years, particularly as we see massive disruption starting to hit societies all around the world, which they're hitting now, you know, particularly with the extreme weather events that we've seen just in the last 2-3 months, which have been off the scale, really. I think the only thing I would add is we are going into the most exciting time. So, of course, it is. There's a very fine line between being terrified and being excited. So it's true excitement, and I think, people alive today have the greatest opportunity. We've got access to huge amounts of knowledge, huge amounts of technology to help us access that knowledge. We've got a massive challenge ahead of us, but it is an opportunity to create what amounts to no less than a new civilization, or new civilizations on this planet. So we have to be brave. I think we have to say goodbye to the past. We have to keep what's good in the cultures that we've developed around the world, but also create new cultures where we do see ourselves again as part of nature, as part of the planet, and as part of an intelligent universe. And we build, the communities, the cities, the regions, which are good for people, good for their communities, but also regenerate the planet at the same time. So I think we're on the verge of something massively exciting for humanity. I think there'll be huge amounts of pain in the next few years, but probably only through that pain will we see the new cultures and civilizations emerge that we now need.
And it's a beautiful mix of Aboriginal knowledge and cutting-edge technology that helps.
I think so.
Okay.
So absolutely as exciting as it gets, Andres.
I appreciate everything you do. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Andres, and keep on your journey.
Okay. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it, watch some of my other videos. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.